Bung Pod. Welcome back, Wine Wonder Boy.
And we got Jazzy J. Jazzy!
Hey! What is a bung?
The hole of the barrel is called a bung hole. Inside the bung hole is called a bung. Wine with mayhem. That's what it's about. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bung Pod. It's your boy Ian King, aka Wine Wonder Boy. Jazzy J is not here, unfortunately, because I moved to Woodinville and she's still in Chelan, but we love her. She's with us in spirit. Say what's up to her in spirit. What's up? If you like this podcast, please rate us on the podcast platform you're listening to us on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good jazz. For today, we have an awesome episode. We have Hailey Bohlman here, the founder and CEO of Cork and Fizz.
Hello.
What up? How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful.
I'm so glad it finally cooled down. Today was like one of the fun, nice days of Seattle summer after being so hot.
I know. It's been so hot in Seattle lately.
Like stupid hot. And it's not even August yet.
Yeah. It's so funny. I spent like 11 years in Southern California.
And Seattle summer kills you.
This past week, I'm just like, I want the clouds.
Right? Like I moved to Seattle for a reason.
Are you from here or?
No, I'm from the Midwest. So
okay.
I think Seattle's actually just made me awful to any sort of temperature other than just like chill, like rainy, somewhere between like 50 to 70. Yeah. Anything less than that or more than that, I'm just like, I can't handle it anymore.
Well, you posted a reel on social media about Santa Barbara wines.
Yeah.
So I'm opening up a Santa Barbara wine for you.
Yeah.
That's where I lived for 11 years in Santa Barbara. So it's technically Central Coast.
Sure. Yeah.
Santa Barbara people listening to this would be like, we're not Southern California. But I have a Bent Rock Vineyard Chardonnay from Sandy. They're amazing. That's a Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay, so I'm very excited to share that with you.
Yes.
Raj Parr and Sashi Mormon. My friend Julia works there as well. What's up, Julia? And you brought a fun wine today.
I did. Yeah. Should I open it up? Get you a glass here?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
This is this crazy wine that I had in the fridge. I thought this was perfect. I'm like, I need a white wine because it's still warm out. But it's a Ukrainian white wine, which I know it's like they make wine in Ukraine. I didn't think so either.
Yeah.
So I have a virtual tasting club. It's called the Cork Crew. We get together every month and learn about new wines from all over the world.
Fun.
And every quarter I figure out, what theme do we want to do? And I look up, I have a bottle partner that sells the wine for this.
Okay.
You don't have to buy from them. You can, join from wherever, but I always like to have it as an offer. And I saw on their new wines, Ukrainian. I was like, there's Ukrainian wine. We need to do this. So absolutely had to talk about it. And so this is Telti Kuruk. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'll be honest. But this is a Ukrainian. So some things that I read said it was a local Ukrainian wine, so indigenous to Ukraine. Other places said it was indigenous to Turkey and they planted it in Ukraine. But for the most part, from what I can tell, you can really only find it in Ukraine.
Okay. So, that's amazing. I'm so excited to try this.
Apparently I can't open it and talk at the same time. I just had to tell you about it first.
Absolutely.
Now I'll open it for you.
Did you Coravin that?
I did.
That's cool. Yeah, I could tell.
It was just, I think I had that tasting and then I was going out with girlfriends afterwards. So I'm just like, I don't know when I'm going to drink the rest of this. But then we had this interview and I was like, this is perfect.
I still have yet to purchase a Coravin. I will at some point, I'm sure, but
it is like the one device that when you think of, oh man, that got me. When you think of wine devices, I think a lot of them are really gimmicky and kind of silly.
Sure.
Coravin is the one that's 100% worth it. It does what it's supposed to do, especially if you're a wine aficionado who would love to just do a tasting at home and open 3 bottles of wine at one time to try all the wines. A Coravin. I do think it's actually worth it. I got it as a gift, the first one, and then I did get one as a product, release type thing. But I've had a Coravin for 3 or 4 years now, and I really do. It's the one thing I say is worth it.
I do a lot of Coravining at the restaurant, but
yeah.
That's about it.
Well, because it's just nice at home, and if you want to open something that's kind of nice, but you're also it's a Tuesday night, and I don't want to drink this whole bottle.
Yeah.
Coravin, or you have 2 Ukrainian wines. I did open the other one regularly.
Cool.
But you're I definitely want to save this for another moment to share with another wino.
Yeah.
And now I get to.
Thank you. Mind if I pour?
Yeah, please do.
I'll pour yours first. Here you are. Go ahead and grab it. There you are. Sweet.
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear what you think. I had a couple different thoughts come to mind when I first tried this.
Okay. Ooh. Nice. Nice pale straw color.
Agreed.
Ooh. Yeah, it's a little flinty, which is
right?
cool. Yeah.
Super minerally. This comes from Bakehush Winery. They're like right on the, I'm not going to get the sea right, the Black Sea. And then on the bay there. And so they get a lot of minerality and like that seashell kind of
nice.
note in their white wines.
Oh, we have a couple of sea influenced whites.
Yes.
Oh, it's nice. Wish I had some oysters to go along with it.
Oh my God, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
No, it's great. It has I feel like there might be a little bit of lees contact in there.
Yep. They said, I'm trying to remember. They left it on the lees for a little bit.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Right?
I wonder if this is like barrel fermented or...
They had a little... Let me see if I can remember. I was like, we did talk about this, and they mention it on the back on this.
Can you say the grape variety again?
So I think you say it Telti Kuruk.
Telti Karuk.
That's my guess, but
okay.
I don't speak any Ukrainian.
Wow.
But this is so fermented in stainless steel tanks, and then young wine is left 5 months on the lees.
Wow. We do have one listener in Ukraine. So what's up?
Hey,
what up?
Tell us more about this wine.
You
then,
can, please.
What I'm saying.
If you look in the description of this show, click the link that says "Send us a message" or text us a message, and maybe you can chime in on this, please. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's really good. That's killer.
Yeah, I think there's 3 wineries from Ukraine that are importing right now into the U.S. They're with an importer, Vine Ukraini. I don't know if that's actually how you say it, but it looks like Vyne Ukraine, but with a Y instead of an E at the end. Okay. Is importing 3 different wineries. There's this Bakehush, and again, I'm probably not saying that right. I'm so sorry. And then the famous tennis player, Starkovsky, has a winery. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And there's a third one out there, Chateau Chizay. Chizay.
Interesting.
Those are the 3 that you could potentially find in the U.S. They're primarily in New York area. Yeah. That's where this bottle is from Bottle Rocket.
Nice.
But yeah, they're out there.
That's crazy. Does New York have like the largest population like per capita of wine nerds?
I feel like they must. They also just have like the best wine because it costs the least to get it over from
that's true.
Europe, right? And then for us over here, everything is so much more expensive because we have to get it from New York to us, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like New York probably. I mean, look at all the wine bars in New York.
Yeah, there's so many wine bars and wine shops in New York. It's crazy. But there's so many people. It's like, yeah, I can make this work because
right.
There's so many people
there that
here.
are going to be drinking it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dang. So how's your virtual tasting club work?
So it's basically, I started it back in 2021, but it's pretty simple. It's kind of funny because I started it during like the pandemic when everything was going virtual, but I really wanted to keep it going because it was this idea that you could connect with anybody, you know, across the entire world. Yeah. I have folks, it's mainly US based. I have a couple Canadians and one, English girl who's based in Spain, which is funny. We get together twice a month. First time is to learn about new wine. So I'll put together a little slide deck and just kind of do the research and teach people. So about Ukraine, I just kind of did that deep dive of, you know, where are they making it? How long have they been doing this? What are the grapes that they use? And so we'll do a tasting. And like I said, you can purchase wine from my partner. I do a box every quarter, so every 3 months. You can get wine from there, or I'll send you out like a list of like suggested. Okay. When it came to the Ukraine wine, it was kind of like, you buy it from these guys or you try and do your best to find it. But other times we talk about, you know, we did one that was like a Tempranillo based. And so, you know, tried 2 different, you know, the Rioja, which is the Ribera del Duero, and like just find, you know, 2 different versions of that and give it a try. Or like Chardonnay, let's try a Chablis from Burgundy versus one from California. And so, we just get together once a month to do that. And then the second time, I try to do a Q&A as often as I can with other wine professionals. So either winemakers, sommeliers. We also once had, I think the most famous person was Kyle MacLachlan, the actor, but also the founder of Pursued by Bears. So that was pretty cool. There's nobody I won't ask to come. I can't guarantee that they will, but
Kyle's
I will always
really
ask.
Nice. I met him.
So nice.
I met him like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think he came into the restaurant to shop his wines out, and they're really good. Like the winemaker from Abeja makes his stuff, and honestly, I don't want to offend anyone, but like Pursued by Bears wine's better than Abeja's.
Well, and I feel like he actually like cares about the wine too. Like when like you think a lot about like celebrity wines, like sometimes I kind of roll my eyes at them, but
he was shopping it to us personally.
And he's the one like he knows about the wine. He goes in and like is involved in making it, and like we saw him at Taste Washington. He was there, which was also like you came to Taste Washington. Like you were very busy. You have so many things to do.
Yeah, he's from Yakima though.
Yeah.
What up?
So like I just thought it was so cool, and so when he was there, and he was very friendly, talks to everybody, but then anytime you get a chance to like ask him about the wine, you can just tell he gets very excited because he's like, I get it. I've been on these shows and like Twin Peaks and whatever, but like I also want to tell you about my wine.
I have great wine. He like does not want to talk about the movies he's made, which by the way, I completely forgot. Like I've been watching How I Met Your Mother again.
Oh yeah.
For like the third time.
Fair.
All the seasons. I've watched all the seasons and I'm on my 3rd time. I just think it's so funny. But he's actually in the show.
Is he really?
He's the sailor. He's the captain. They call him the captain, who is Zoe's husband. And
oh my gosh.
It's so funny because Ted like had a crush on Zoe. Zoe was married to the sailor. They became friends with the sailor. They took him on a boat, It's like, it's so funny. I was like, that's fucking Kyle. I saw him a couple weeks ago. I'm like, what the heck? It's so funny.
Wow, I haven't like watched that show like in continuum, but like watched it a lot of times when it just like popped up. I'll have to now go back.
I haven't seen a lot of it. I haven't seen Twin Peaks. I haven't really seen his shows or movies that often, but I was like, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, and it was How I Met Your Mother. I think that was the main thing for me.
You're like, I know your face.
Next time I see him, like the sailor or the captain. The captain.
But yeah, so we get together and we just do Q&As like that. So it's very chill and just a good way to like get to know. I always love like one of the things about wine is like the people behind the wine, right? It's one of the coolest things about it where like there's always a story behind the bottle and like getting to learn that. So like getting to ask these winemakers those types of questions, like why did you choose to do this? Like why did you go into the world of winemaking? It's a really hard field to be in. Like you must love something about it. And so just a cool chance to do that. And so we do usually about two events a month, and
that's awesome. So you kind of have this I mean, I don't want to say like revolving door, but you have a lot of things that you're kind of doing.
Yes.
A lot. Do you want to, for people that might not be familiar,
sure,
do you want to explain all that you do?
Sure. I'll give it the best go. So with Cork and Fizz was originally founded as a virtual wine tasting business. The idea to like educate folks on wine and just kind of create these really unique, fun experiences when we really needed it. It was during the pandemic in 2020 when it started, and like all you had were like Zoom happy hours, you know, with like your coworkers, and it was very boring. You'd just be like, what'd you do today? Nothing. I sat here and now I've got some wine in my glass, So I wanted to like, and I love learning. And I love teaching. So I kind of like brought that all in. So I still do the virtual tastings. I'll do private tastings. So I can do them for corporate or for just private, like a birthday or bachelorette party type kind of thing. And people can be from all over, or you can all be in one place and then I, virtual telecommute in. Or I do in-person tastings now. So in or around the Seattle area. Those are great for birthdays, bachelorette, things like that. So I have the private tasting area. And then I do the Cork Crew virtual tasting club. So kind of that virtual tasting, but a membership style.
Want to show off your shirt? You got some merch?
I got sorry, my hair is
there. You go.
Little
there you go.
Cork Crew situation.
Bam,
here.
bam. Nice.
You can tell it's a little old too. It's a couple of years. It's gone through the laundry quite a bit. Yeah, Cork Crew. And then I do have a podcast. I started that a little over a year ago. It's called the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine. Again, very much focused on that education portion. I always have like a couple episodes where it's just me solo talking about something in the wine world that I think is fun, and then bringing on lots of different guests from all over the world of wine. I have the podcast. Trying to think. I do some local events. So I have day retreats coming up, especially here in Woodinville.
Oh, cool.
Or down in like Sodo and Seattle, south of downtown area. And so that's basically just like a day of wine tasting where I've planned it all for you, and you can just buy a ticket, and it's like 3 wine tastings. Usually try to do something a little special each time. So it's like something you couldn't do, just book on your own. So like the next one coming up is in Sodo at the end of this month.
Cool.
And so like we're going to Lotta Wines, and we're going to do like a blind tasting experience. So we're going to taste their GSM blend and then taste each of the Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, single varietals blind, and like try to like guess which one is which. That's rad. But yeah, those are like those little experiences to tie in there.
Check the show notes for all the links to Hailey's stuff.
Yeah, so, I think that's pretty much everything that's keeping me busy these days.
That's a lot of stuff. You know? That's a lot of balls rolling.
I like to try a lot of things.
That's cool. That's really cool. I love that. Wow, this wine is so interesting though. Like,
isn't it? I'm trying
to maybe like along the lines of Chablis, I guess. I'm trying to like compare it to something that like people would understand.
Because it is very like, I think that mineral note is the most noticeable. I also almost wanted to say like, it made me think a little bit of like an aged Riesling and like the petrol kind of like, I don't think it's totally there yet. Yeah. But it's like reminding me of that with like, it does have that nice depth and, and especially with the lees too. I don't know if you want to go like Muscadet, since that's always like a bright wine, but on the lees. So you get a little more like mouthfeel and it's not just acidic.
Yeah, it has some like roundness. Yeah. For sure. What vintage is this? It is. Oh, it's a 22. Nice. That's rad. Yeah, that's a beautiful wine. Okay. Check out Ukrainian wines, guys. It's crazy.
They're worth trying.
It is interesting though when you think about some of these northern climates and like, climate change, and you're like, what's going to happen? Are they going to be growing Grenache at some point? Like,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, they were even talking about like all the regions in Ukraine right now. Like, the wine growing regions are primarily southern Ukraine, or a little bit in the west, kind of where it's like close to like Hungary and Moldavia in that area. But they're starting to go north because they're like these areas that you couldn't ripen grapes before. Yeah, you kind of can now.
Kind of can.
So we're going to do it.
I really wonder if places like Bordeaux or the Rhone are going to start irrigating. Yeah. Or need to start irrigating.
I mean, they're going to have to start doing something. When you think about, when you look on that map, it's always, you think like between like the 20 to 50 degree like parallels, right? But like that's significantly moving up as climate change is happening. And like, they're going to have to do something, or they're going to be producing these like giant bombs of a wine, and like, people don't. I mean, some people like that, but at least right now, that's not like the most popular thing.
No,
to be making.
Like France has always kind of shitted on Napa for having like really huge, syrupy, bold wines, and so it's like, are you going to produce that now? Or like they've been shitting on everyone for like irrigating, and like, are you going to have to do that now?
You might be where this all started, but you're going to have to learn from us.
Sorry, French people. We've collaborated in the past. Phylloxera.
That was kind of our fault, sorry, but we fixed it too.
That was our fault, and we did fix it. Or at least we tried. Phylloxera's like everywhere now, except for, Mendoza? Uco Valley?
I think Chile has avoided it a little bit
Chile
too.
For sure
and there's
has.
Maybe a couple spots in Australia. That have like
Australia would make sense.
And I think some areas I met a friend from Croatia, and I think there are some areas in Croatia as well. Like kind of think like the little island areas, right? That are like hard for things to get there. It was hard for Phylloxera to get there. Yeah. So they might have some old stuff too.
Dude, Croatia cracks me up as a country. Just like not like the people, or like, it's just like when you look at a map and like Bulgaria's sitting there like, oh yeah, beachfront property, and and then Croatia's like, fuck you are, like just trying to We're having all the beach.
We got all of it. We have like 200 plus islands, like everything. Yeah. We have all the beach.
It's crazy. I do want to try Tribajag or Carl Janet Catalanski, the grape variety. You know?
Oh, I don't know.
That's originally Zinfandel.
Oh, yes.
Or Primitivo.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's like where apparently it originated from was Croatia. And then it went to Italy, and it's Primitivo. The Italians came to California, started planting all these grapes, and now it's mutated into Zinfandel.
Yeah.
So it's like, I really want to try the original thing.
Right,
and to see how far it's gone.
Oh, I'm sure it's very different.
I just know that Zinfandel in California is a pain in the ass to harvest and a pain in the ass to grow. Well, it's a pain in the ass because it matures unevenly.
Oh.
So are you familiar with shatter? Like what shatter looks like in a grape?
No.
So I took a viticulture. I'm from Washington State University. Go Cougs. And so shatter is when some of the grapes on there go to full matureness, but there are some still very young green berries in there. And so if you are doing sample sizes, if you're doing cluster samples, it's really going to fuck up and especially for people that do not sort.
Sure.
There's a lot of people who don't sort that make really great wines. And if you get shatter in your grapes, you have to sort it. So Zinfandel is very similar. Like one part of the cluster will be full ripe berries and the others will be completely green, which is why in Paso Robles, they make 16%
try
ABV.
To wait for everything.
So they wait for everything. But then people in Mendocino County, north of Sonoma, are making leaner, more bright and vibrant styles of Zinfandel that's more, I guess, more closer to Primitivo.
Sure. Is that where where's Dry Creek Valley?
Dry Creek, I feel like it's everywhere.
I'm trying to think where Dry Creek Valley is. I did an event a couple years ago that was Dry Creek Valley Zinfandel. It was very good. It was not what
Sonoma.
I was used to. Okay.
That's all I know. It's in Sonoma somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it goes into... I'm not sure if Dry Creek goes north into Mendocino or if it goes east into Napa.
Okay.
I don't remember that. But yeah, anyways, it's kind of wild. And so people in Paso gets so fucking hot. It's have you been there?
I have not been there. I've heard good things.
It's not too far away from Santa Barbara. It was 3 hours from Santa Barbara.
It's just not as much my thing. I do kind of prefer the cooler climate.
I do too. This is why we're up in Washington State. So this guy, the Bent Rock Vineyard, Santa Rita Hills, Chardonnay from Sandy, Rajpar, Sashi.
Ooh, that smells
Julia.
lovely. This is whenever anybody's I hate Chardonnay, I hate any type of oaked or Chardonnay, I'm just but just give it a chance.
You haven't had the right one yet.
And Santa Rita is the place where I honestly I think I was a little bit of a snob when it came to wine when I first got into it of
I was for sure.
Yeah, I was and I was so it's funny because I got into it through Oregon. So I was Oregon Pinot is what's good. And I'm ew, California Pinot. and then I tried Santa Barbara and especially Santa Rita Hills and I'm oh, I'm sorry, I'll be quiet now.
What up, Santa Barbara though?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so when I was in Santa Barbara, I was there for a total of 11 years, but I was only in the wine industry for, I believe, 5.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 years there. And I was making wine, interning places, making a lot of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and also a lot of Rhone varieties, which was so fun. Yeah. And those two...
Because you get to blend, and that's really fun.
It's a blast. And those two are my palate, essentially. Okay. It's I go Rhone and I go... But I don't like boozy wines. I'm not a fan of anything above 14.5. I'm just I'm not going to... I don't want to drink that.
No.
I 13.5 is my sweet spot and lower.
Yeah, I mean, if I see like, especially like we were out tasting this past weekend, I was staying with my girlfriends, and like I saw like a red wine at like 12%. And I'm like, ooh, I gotta try that.
Yeah, I gotta try that. Exactly.
Oh no, this is delicious. This is a treat. Like this is when you pour yourself a glass of wine when you're like, I was hungry for a little treat, but I'm actually gonna have this. Yeah. And I don't mean like it's sweet. It's just like hits all the right spots. It's so good, and it just has so much going on, and you can just be like, this is so good.
I'm going to say something, but it sounds like I'm bragging. I'm trying to flex. I'm not. I just work at a place where sometimes some people bring awesome wines in and then they leave it there and I get to try it.
Fair.
And so, this reminds me of I had a Premier Cru Saint-Aubin, last weekend, Chardonnay, and it was just so nice. Like, the bad part about tasting these wines, you're like,
no,
but I want to take the whole bottle home. Like,
would be like, this bottle is like, the best way to describe it, it's like, it tastes like vacation of just like, if I opened this bottle and just like went out and sat outside, or even I could just be laying on my couch, but it would still feel like just a nice treat of relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
So much going on. And I'm a sucker for a good Chardonnay.
That's what, I mean, Raj tried to do. He tried to make Burgundy in California. And
not having it be like, I think a lot of people are like, well, I'll drink Chardonnay, but only if it's unoaked or like the stainless steel. And you can make good ones that way too.
Yeah.
But I think finding that right balance between a little bit of oaked, a little bit of that like waxy kind of oiliness, and a little bit of that like unctuous kind of note to it is so good.
It is so good. You just got to do it right.
Yeah. Just gotta do it right. Come on.
You
like,
just
that's
gotta do it right. Okay. So you said Chablis earlier, and you said California. So I had some people, I owed customers of some sort, like a couple years ago. I don't remember where I was working at the time, but they're like, oh yeah, I don't like Chablis because the last one I had was from California. And I was like, wait, there was a time where California was calling it Chablis. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's sort of like the Champagne rule.
Like they got grandfathered in. I wonder
if it's still around.
Or if like when the people were describing it to them, they said it's Chablis style. Right? 'Cause I think there's a lot with wine that is super confusing in the terminology of it because there's so much that's new. So even if you just like go to a tasting room and they just give you a basic description of the wine, there are probably like 5 things in there that if you're not a total wine nerd, don't make sense to you. So you're just going to like latch onto one.
Oh, totally.
And so potentially maybe they just like when they had the California wine, they were there and the guy was like, it's
a Chablis style.
It's a Chablis style, or we make it in the style of Chablis, and like that's what stuck in their head or something like that.
And it was probably just like a shitty wine. Yeah. I didn't like it. You haven't had actual Chablis.
No. Well, and even then, I feel like I always try to tell people that like my biggest thing and like why I kind of created Cork and Fizz and also why I created the virtual tasting club is like, I think the biggest thing on wine is just keep trying new wines. And also like don't give up on a wine because you had one bottle of it that you didn't like. Yeah. Whether it be one bottle from a specific region or one bottle, like a lot of times in the US we stick to like the variety or like the name of the grape. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I had that Chardonnay. I don't like Chardonnay. Yeah. I had that Pinot Noir. I don't like Pinot Noir. And it's like, that's impossible.
I had Snoop Dogg's Cali Blanc and now I don't like Sauvignon Blanc. No offense to Snoop Dogg. You didn't make it. I love you, Snoop Dogg.
But like, I think, there are plenty of wines. Like, you're not supposed to like every wine. That's fine. You can dislike wine. Yeah. But you can't give up on its entire group to like be like, yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah. I worked under a wine buyer that he totally disregarded the whole country of South Africa. What? Because of Pinotage.
Oh my God.
And he's just like, yeah, it's just terrible. I was like, why? And he's like, oh, I just don't like Pinotage. I was like, but there's a lot more there. Yeah. Like they make like stainless steel Chenin Blanc that's zippy and fresh and really good.
And even then, I guarantee you there's going to be Pinotage that you like.
Oh, I've had one that I've really liked.
Yeah. And it's like, and there can also be like ones that you're like, about, like, I'll be honest, I do love Rhone blends, but I get more excited about the white Rhone blends because I'm not a huge Grenache fan.
Oh, okay.
Which sounds crazy as, like, somebody who, like, I typically like lighter, fruity, you know, kind of reds. But Grenache was never one that, like, stuck with me. So it's not one that I'll, like, reach for. Like, I'll admit that.
What about, like, a lighter 13.5 Grenache?
I mean, like I said, like, I would
fresh.
try it. Like, if it's being offered or if it's, like, something that kind of sounds interesting. But, like, it's one of those that I'll admit that, like, if I see it, I do kind of glaze over it. And look for something else.
Yeah, like,
but I'm also, like, if somebody were to offer me one, like, if you happen to have, you know, you were opening a Grenache, you know, for us today, it wouldn't have been like, oh, I don't like Grenache. Sorry, I can't drink that. And people will be like that. Like, there's many times where I've, like, brought forward a wine and they're just like, no, thank you. I don't drink that.
They will just try a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just like, just a sip.
I mean, you can dump it out.
Yeah. And now I'm just like, half the time I'm like, I think I'm just going to, like, start introducing things, like, blind and just be like, here, I have some wine for you. Yeah. And, like, not tell them what it is and let them try a sip first and then see what happens. Yeah.
No, there was this time. So when I worked at Carhartt Family Wines in Santa Barbara, they had a Merlot, and Sideways was based in Santa Barbara and it was filmed in Santa Barbara. Right. And there's so many people there that were like, oh, I just don't drink Merlot. And so when it was on the tasting, I got that so much when it was on the tasting menu. I'm like, I'm just not going to fucking tell them it's Merlot until I'm going to come back and check on them. And it's like, oh, how was the wine? Like, oh, yeah. And then tell them that's like what I would do. I'd be like, so here's your next red. I would give them all the information except for the grape. Say what it is. Yeah, I was like, this from this vineyard. It has this percentage of new French oak, and then the rest is neutral barrel. So I hope you guys really like it. It's from this vineyard over there. Yeah, enjoy. And then I'll come back. Come back
so
after.
Did we love it?
Yeah. How'd you like this wine? Like, oh, it's really good. What was it again? Like, it's our Merlot. And they're like, what? I usually don't like Merlot, but I love this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised. So this past April, I did a wine retreat out to Walla Walla. It was my second year doing it. But one question that I wanted to ask everybody out there, because I feel like Walla Walla, it's still new enough as a wine region, right? That there's not like one thing that Walla Walla is known for. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask all the winemakers and any of the like wine professionals that were leading the tastings for us, like, what do you think like Walla Walla like should be known for or like will be known for in like 30, 40 years from now? I was amazed with the number of people that said Merlot.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No way.
I think I asked and forgot to ask towards the end. But I think out of the like 8 or 9 that I asked, half of them said Merlot.
Wow. And
I was like, I wouldn't even thought of that. Like, I was
and you asked like winemakers?
I asked a mix of, it was like winemakers. A couple of them were like the wine professionals, kind of more like the tasting room manager.
Oh, okay, yeah.
One of them was like the one that always does we did a blending workshop at North Star, which like their thing is Merlot. So, but there were quite a few. And one of them didn't even make Merlot at the time. It was a winemaker. And he's like, but I think, I do think Merlot is like going to be towards the top. And he's like, I'd like to make more of it, but we need to make what sells right now.
Right.
And Merlot isn't at the top right now. And I thought that was wild. I was expecting either Cabernet, of course, or my opinion right now is Syrah.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Syrah. I think Syrah is the coolest thing out of Walla Walla. But yeah, many of them said Merlot.
That's nuts. That's so crazy.
Got to try a Walla Walla Merlot.
Yeah. My gosh. One of my friends went down to Portland for like a wine convention. And he was at a wine bar and he was like, yeah, like I want something cool, whatever. And I want an Oregon wine. Right. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we have this really awesome Syrah from Milton Freewater. And then he was just like, bro, like I want something from, yeah, it's Oregon. Like, we know technically it's Oregon. We get it. Jeez. But he's like, no, I drink so much of that stuff in Washington already.
That is the weirdest thing, isn't it? Where like, it's like Walla Walla is, most people think of it as a Washington region, but it crosses over into Oregon. And then like talking to like one of my favorite wineries down there, Delmas. Have you ever had their wine? Yeah. Brooke does a vineyard tour. I haven't had their wine yet, but okay, it's great wine. Great. But Brooke, it does a vineyard tour down there that I've gotten to enjoy a few times. And talking to her about it's really fascinating because it's very difficult for them to like label their wine. because they can only label it. They can label it by the vineyard. But if you didn't like own the vineyard yourself, or if it came from a couple different places, like you couldn't say like the Rocks District or you know, Walla Walla, or you can't say like it's so annoying, like the rules based off like what state you're in, because it has to be a state wine. Yeah. But if it comes from multiple different states or something like that, even if it's multiple states, then you have to call it like USA. Yeah. Just like imagine getting a wine and be like, this is a USA wine. Like, excuse me, what?
Vin de USA.
Yeah, like what? I don't know about that. But like it was interesting hearing her talk about it, and they're really trying to push for like better rules and legislation regarding especially those type of AVAs that like because I know the reason why is it's protecting those places that like ship grapes to like other states, you know, like I'm from Wisconsin.
That makes sense.
There are wineries that bring in a bunch of grapes or juice from California. And like California doesn't want them to be able to label the wine California wine. So it's like if you bring grapes over the state border, but if you're Delmas and you bring grapes from your vineyard in Oregon over to your winery in Washington, but it's all in Walla Walla, you should be able to label it as such. Yeah. But
really should.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've had a number of Roti bottles, and Roti's facility and tasting room is in Walla Walla. They also have one in Soto over here in Seattle, and one in Portland, I think, too. But some of their labels say Washington State. And then the last one I had said Oregon, and I was just like, I'm just like a little, like I get it, but at the same time, I'm just like, wait, hold on. I had an estate one that was from Washington State as well. I'm just like,
oh yeah, because I thought because they have a tasting room that's in like nearly Milton Freewater, like it's it's on the Oregon side.
Yeah, it's in the vineyard. Yeah.
Interesting. It must be like depending on where they make it.
Yeah.
Oh, so confusing.
And they have a little a tasting platform in the middle of the vineyard. Like if you've seen Star Wars and you know I'm a big Star Wars nerd, although not a nerd enough to remember what the actual vehicle is called that they're on. But it was in Tatooine at Jabba the Hutt's palace and near the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, I totally know all this. The only Star Wars I've watched was very drunk in college because my husband wanted me to watch it.
The Sarlacc is the big hole in the ground with teeth.
Okay.
That a bunch of people fell into and died. But anyways. Yeah. It reminds me of that little boat. It's like a hovering kind of thing. And it looks like that too. Okay. And I was like, hey, that's the... and I completely forgot. Were you
inspired by?
Yeah. That's like that's the Hutt's Palace boat. It's interesting. Like, huh. You guys are inspired by Star Wars. I see that.
Definitely, yeah.
But they might be. I mean, look at their facility. It's like, this could be Star Wars.
It is, yeah. It's very modern.
I don't know. Yeah, it is very modern. A lot of concrete.
Yes.
Just no doors that, open when you walk
True, yeah.
to the Jedi thing. Anyways. I like tangents on the podcast. It's fun.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like if you're passionate about wine, you definitely have like another passion and nerdum thing as well.
Yeah. What's yours?
Like a specific one? I don't know if I have it. I'm big into Harry Potter. That would probably be like out of like all the fantasy.
What house are you? Do you know?
So I think Hufflepuff. I think I fall between Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. Cool. I feel like a lot of people don't like to say they're Hufflepuff, but I think like my greatest quality is like a kindness and friendliness and just like
totally.
And I'm good at finding things, so if I've heard that's a
nice
thing,
that's very helpful.
I also lose things a lot, which is why I think I'm so good at finding things.
Yeah, I found it.
I'm just like so used to it. I'm like, okay, I know the steps.
That's the 10th thing I found today. I'm so good at finding stuff.
I'm so good at this.
I'm Ravenclaw.
Yeah. I'm definitely like, I'm between Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. I'm like, I am the smart one. I'm definitely not Gryffindor. I ain't doing any stupid shit because it's brave. Like, that ain't my thing.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. And I'm not evil, so.
Well, and I'm not like, I feel like Slytherin's also the one where it's like, you're like, not even evil, but just like conniving or like.
Yeah, their thing is being cunning.
Yeah. And no, that's not me. I'm that goofy little Hufflepuff over there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I wonder if Dumbledore would have any vineyards on his property.
Ooh, that's That's a good question. Definitely seems like the dude that would.
I mean, they're in the UK, make some sparkling wines.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, have you had Ellen Tones?
I don't think so.
Blanc de Blanc, they're Noah. So Chris Sherry is a winemaker, and he's from the UK. And I think he studied method champenois.
Nice.
Or studied how to make sparkling wine. Because UK, if you know the history of sparkling wine, UK had a huge impact on that. Most of it accidental. So they can't take full credit. It's just shipping could take the credit, I guess.
Wait, what is that story? Because I've heard the
ships.
accidental story of how Champagne was founded, but it was down in the Languedoc, and it was basically because bottles kept bursting, and they're
oh, I haven't heard that story.
Really?
But I've heard the story where they were shipping the king some wine, and it started getting fizzy because it didn't go through everything. And I'm not sure if it was a white or I think it was a red wine or something. But they shipped him wine. It was fizzy, and he popped it open, and he was like, "Is this supposed to be fizzy?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, "Well, this is amazing. Can you make it again?
Yeah.
I want more of it." And so that was
the story I've heard is from down in the Languedoc. They were making white wine, and it was when they bottled it, it hadn't finished fermentation. But of course, when you bottle, it's in the fall going into winter, and so it got cold enough where it went into the cellar, and when it's cold, fermentation doesn't happen. The yeast kind of just chills out for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then come springtime, when it started to warm up again, the yeast started doing its thing, eating the sugar, creating alcohol and carbon dioxide. And then, of course, the bottles started to burst. Oh. And that was a thing where they called it the wine of the devil for the longest time. And
oh, I haven't heard
they
this
had
story.
to if you worked in the cellar, you had to wear this mask. It resembled almost like a catcher's mask because you didn't know if it would the bottles were going to explode or not. And obviously they didn't have the science at the time to explain why it was happening. Yeah. But this was I think this was a couple centuries before Champagne started. Yeah. So that was where it started. And then the thing is that they did eventually realize what it was that was causing it. And then people liked it. And then they started making it on purpose. And then the thing is that they said that Dom Perignon took the trek down to Languedoc to learn how to make it. Oh. And then that is how they started making it in Champagne.
Good old DP, man.
Yeah, yeah.
He had a life. That's the best life. All you do, so you commit your life to God, and then you study the Bible, but then what do you do on your free time? Well, you have to be a monk, so you commit to yourself to one thing. Wine. And do that one thing. And he's like, I'm going to make champagne.
Yeah. I mean, we have all the monks to thank for wine. Anytime you look in the history, I'm a huge history nut when it comes to wine. And you look at any of the history of any region and they're like, yes, we have all of this dating back to da-da-da. Because the monks took such great records and really cared about all this. And so you're just
that's why we have beer too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the monks.
For that too.
Have you heard of a Trappist ale before?
No.
So there's Belgian monks and they're still there. And they still make Trappist beer, but they essentially make this so Belgian ales are high in ABV and you drink it out of a little goblet, so you don't drink it in a pint glass. So you drink it in a goblet and it's very it depends on which one. They have blonde ales and they have the monk Trappist ale, which is dark amber and it's kind of bready. Okay, not breadsy, but bread.
Yeah, bread.
Like a loaf. Yeah, yeasty.
Like a loaf.
Yeah, like the yeasty boys. And it's just it's very good. It's tasty. I used to love those ales, back in the day. And I was monks still make this. And also in Germany, there's Weihenstephaner.
Oh, sure.
Weihenstephaner Vitus, which they are 1040 AD is when they started. God. And they're still going. Just monks making beer for everybody.
I guess that's your thing. If you got to swear off women, you just make a lot of wine and beer.
Yep. Yeah, man. Totally. It's just sad for the women, though. What do they do? Just the nuns have to do that, too? The nuns don't
get to make wine. That's no fun.
I'm sure they could. Hopefully they can do something.
I don't even know if they're allowed to drink.
What?
Yeah.
Only the guys can drink?
The only thing I'm going off of right now is The Sound of Music. So.
Oh, okay.
I have no actual information on this.
I absolutely hate that movie.
Really? Really?
Yeah, everyone says like, "Oh, you hate that movie? That sucks." It's not because of the movie.
Yeah.
It's because of the situation I was in.
Oh no.
My grandma in Santa Barbara. So I'd go down to Santa Barbara every now and then to visit my grandparents, and my mom's from there. And so when I was down there once or twice before, when I was younger, she was like, "Oh, we're going to watch The Sound of Music." And I was like, "I don't want to watch The Sound of Music. It's not something I want to watch." I wanted to watch like sports or,
Sure,
whatever.
yeah.
I was a little boy. I probably wanted to watch Star Wars, for like the 100th time. And she was like, "No, we're watching The Sound of Music."
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" And so I had to sit down and watch The Sound of Music. And I was like, I hate this movie because it was forced upon me.
That's fair. I mean, I never loved The Sound of Music. It's a long movie. I can't handle very long movies. I get bored very easily.
How long is it? Like 3 hours?
Yeah, sure.
More?
It's very long. I don't know. I think it's
okay.
3. No, I don't think it's longer than 3 hours. My husband loves it.
Cool.
Yeah, he used to watch it with his mom. He's an only child.
Okay.
But he loves it. And it was like their thing. It was.
So
It must have been
he
like
has a good attachment to it.
Yes,
I have a
absolutely.
very
Yes, he has like the
negative one.
opposite where he was like it brings back great memories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've watched it, and then a friend was recently in a local play production of it, which was actually really cool. Like,
Nice.
It kind of like made me think about like the fact that I think a lot of people who are into wine, it's like a hobby of theirs that they do potentially like create a business out of it. Like create a podcast like this out of it. But a lot of times it's not like their main job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made me think of that when I'm watching this play because it wasn't like a professional, like these people are like, this is their main job. Like my friend who was in it, like she works at Google with me.
Okay.
And like she just does like plays and musicals like in her free
And that's
time.
her hobby.
Yeah. But
That's
it was
pretty
like
cool.
such a fascinating, like watching it just be like, how are these people like putting this all together in like their side as like a side hobby?
hustle?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And like the kids were amazing because, Sound of Music has the kids. They had some kids that were in it. And I was just like very impressed.
That's interesting.
Right? Like,
Oh, wow.
But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, that makes sense. How many hours do you spend on your wine business that isn't the thing that brings in, money every day, but like you love doing it?
True. I mean, how hours do you spend?
God, I've been trying to get better about it, but I would say on average, I'm now working at my corporate job just 4 days a week. I've gone down to 80% there. So every Friday is mostly a Cork and Fizz day.
Cool.
So I usually get about 8 hours there. And then I'm a morning person, so I like to wake up before my job starts and get some work done in the morning, probably a couple hours.
Wish I was a morning person.
Well, the thing is, I have to do it in the morning because then when evening comes around, I'm terrible at getting anything done. Like my brain just stops working, but I will try for a couple hours. So I would say like on average, like 30 to 40 hours probably with Cork and Fizz every week.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like almost a full-time job.
Yeah, I like doing it.
Yeah.
And, and like you said, like all the different things I'm doing, I'm very bad at just like being like, okay, just focus on this thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, but what about that and that and that?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of things I would love to do with the platform, and grow it to a certain thing and then branch off into different things. And like, I have a vision for sure.
I mean, I have more things that like I've always had like in the back of my brain. I really want to do an app at one point.
Yeah.
I think it'd be super cool to create. I have like a software engineering background, but I've never done like a whole lot of app development.
Okay.
But that's what my degree is in. Technically, my bachelor's degree is software engineering.
Oh, cool.
But I really want to create an app that like teaches people how to taste wine.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there are a lot of apps out there for like recording what wine you tasted or for like keeping track of the wine. But like something that would actually like you're at the winery and like you're tasting the wine and you want to like be able to like remember better the difference between all the different wines.
Yeah.
And you just want something super simple, very easy to use that you can just say like, it was this color. It smelled like this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. And it tastes like, and it walk you through it. Like acidity, that's like saliva. Try my drool test, which is like, testing the acidity level. And tannin, it's what makes your mouth feel dry. Like you have a cotton ball in there. Yeah. Like how does the wine feel, when you have a sip of your wine, and like walks you through all that. So then you actually have like a helpful recording of the wine. Yeah. And then, at the end of the day, when you've tasted like 15 wines, because you stopped at 3 wineries on your day of wine tasting, you can remember what you tasted. And you can go back in.
Oh my gosh. How many wineries do you book? Like when you go taste, if you're getting like a day of tasting?
Yeah. I mean, max 3.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion for everybody. I think when I first started, I got into like 4 or 5. But I mean, either, you know,
After
you have to
3,
be spitting
yeah.
because otherwise you're drunk as heck by the third one. And then I always try to do like unique experiences at some of them too.
Yeah.
Something to just like break up just the tasting. So I'm always looking for one that has like, you know, a winery tour or a vineyard tour. But just something, or like even like a pairing, a wine and food pairing of some sort, just to like break it up so I'm not just drinking the wine.
Totally. When I went to Valdemar, they had smash burgers.
Oh, yeah.
And it was lunchtime. Like we were, my girlfriend and I, we have the same birthday. And we were,
that's fun.
Yeah, we were celebrating our birthday last year in Walla Walla. And she has a culinary background. And she was a chef. And she's in restaurant management right now.
Okay.
And so she picks all the food areas.
Sure.
And I pick all the wine areas. And so we had a very fun time in Walla Walla. Kinglet was still there, luckily.
Oh, loved
so,
Kinglet. I was able to go there for the first wine retreat, and I was so sad when I saw they closed. I was like, no.
That was my first ever tasting menu experience.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
good.
wild to me. I was like, wait, so what? She had to explain to me. So it's a tasting menu. I was like, so like wine tasting. They have a wine tasting like menu, so you can pick the wines you taste. And she's like, no, it's a food tasting menu. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yes. I remember always seeing like, you know, like before I ever had one and just seeing like videos of it and just seeing like the little tiny portions they bring out and being like, how does that fill you up? But then when I've like done one and I'm like, yeah, it does.
Because it's
also,
it's little courses throughout.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing like 8 of them, you know, and like and they're like fairly rich, and I do love a good.
Oh yeah.
But then the thing is pairing wine with that, and I think what's really fascinating. I remember was it a podcast or was it maybe I was just reading. I'm like trying to remember where it was a podcast episode but I'm blanking on her name. She's the Australian wine, Jane Lopes. She was a sommelier, and she spent some time, she spent in the US and like Chicago, New York, but spent a lot of time in Australia. She just wrote a book like the Australian Wine Guide or something like that, with her husband. But she had talked about like at a restaurant, they used to do a mixed wine and non-alcoholic pairing for their tasting menu.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's genius. 'Cause could you imagine like 8 wines for each of the 8 dishes that you're tasting?
That's a lot.
Like, that would be a lot of wine. But instead, you could, like,
so she does a mix?
Yeah, so it's like you do 1 wine, 1 non-alcoholic. 1 wine, 1 non-alcoholic. So by the end of it, you've had, like, a pairing with each one, but you're not hammered.
That's cool. Yeah. I know Sorel in Seattle, like Cap Hill kind of area, they do a wine pairing, and wine's the only alcohol they have, and it's all Washington wines.
Yes.
And then they have a non-alcoholic cocktail pairing as well.
I wonder if we'd ever, I need to convince them to do like a little like mixy mix. I'm like, I want some wine, but I want a little bit, I don't want to be totally drunk by the end.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's not wines with like every single course, because it's like 10 courses.
Yeah.
Like you go there, you get your first bites, and you get your splash of probably bubbles.
Yeah.
And then to start, because like, you get your first bites on the table, and then your second course comes. There's not a wine pairing with that, but it's like a very small kind of pop in your mouth situation.
Yeah.
And the next course comes, and then you get a wine pairing. And then there's another one and another one.
I'm sure they balance it very well. I don't want to like talk badly about their tasting. I do love the idea of like, that's like the hardest thing I find with wine is that I do kind of hate that it has alcohol.
Sometimes I think the same thing. I just
I just want to drink the wine because it's so good and I love the stories behind it. I'm so passionate about it, and gosh dang it has alcohol. So I need to limit.
I mean, there's so many times for me that I've had like a tasting night at my house, like a wine night at my house, and people bring like 10 bottles of wine and you taste through all of them, and then you go back to your favorites.
Yeah.
And you're not pouring yourself a full glass. No. It's like a half glass.
No,
like
you have
this,
like 20 little tiny glasses.
This amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it adds up. And then at the end, you're just like completely trashed.
Yep.
And I had that one time and it was in Santa Barbara. I threw up so bad. I threw up. Oh God, it was so bad. And then I was like, remember sitting on the bathroom floor. I was like, why does wine have alcohol in it?
I know. You're like, God damn it. We actually, the way that I got into wine and how I started Cork and Fizz, it actually started as a wine club with friends.
Oh,
so
cool.
I got into wine after visiting Willamette Valley, and then I came back and I wanted to try a bunch of wines. I wanted this to be like a thing, but I didn't want to have to buy all the wine. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I'm kind of newish to Seattle. I think I'd been here for about a year. And I'm like, good way to make friends and a good way to taste a lot of wine. Yeah. Start a wine tasting club.
Yeah.
So I kind of brought together, we had friends that I met at work, friends in the apartment building we were living in. We had some friends we met at the dog park.
Sick.
And just like
That's
brought
awesome.
everybody together and started this wine club. And like every month, had a theme.
Yeah.
But our first wine club night was a Monday night.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why we thought that was a good idea.
And you guys are working...
We're working like regular corporate jobs.
Regular jobs?
Yeah. And so I'm sorry, I should say like corporate jobs, like your regular 9 to 5 weekdays, right? Yeah. And so we all brought a bottle of wine to share. It was a great night. We all got hammered. We drank all the wine. And then I remember there's 2 stories. There's the one that my husband and I, we had to take our dog out for a walk. So we take her out for a walk, and we're in like a little neighborhood, Bryant in Seattle. It's a very like family focused neighborhood. It's kind of where the university is, but a little further out from that. And we're walking our dog, and we walk by a car, and we're like, those people are having sex in their car right now. It was like 1 a.m. So I'm sure they didn't think anybody else was awake and walking out. And we're just like, huh. Interesting. We're also, very drunk. So we're like, is that real? Don't stare. Okay, keep moving.
Is that real? Wait, let me look harder.
What are they doing? And then on our way back, my husband dropped the keys, and we didn't realize it till we got to the door, and we were trying to get back into the house. So we had to go back past the people having sex in their car to go get the keys. And then, the next morning I woke up and I'm just like, am I still drunk? Can I drive to work right now? So we've since learned, 1, you don't have wine night on a Monday night.
Yeah.
And
I was surprised that people agreed to
wine.
that. If everyone has like office jobs, then I'm like...
I guess we were all thinking we'd be sophisticated and it was wine, so we can't get that drunk, right?
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Wrong. You
can. You can. You absolutely can. I mean, most of the people at my tasting nights were industry.
Oh, sure.
And so everyone had Mondays off.
Yeah, so that actually
So it worked out. And most people had Tuesdays off too.
Sure,
so
yeah. No, that would make more sense. That would actually be one you'd actually hate doing it on like a Friday or a Saturday night.
Yeah. Absolutely. It looks like that's the time.
Wow, that was easy, man.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone, please check out her links below. We link for her podcast, link for her wine tasting group.
Yeah.
And it's all virtual, right?
The wine tasting club is all virtual.
And then you have events.
Yeah,
you have an event
events
page.
and private tastings. Yeah.
I'm going to scour her website, and I'm going to bring all the links to the show notes. Also, her social. Please follow. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Grab a splash of wine and cheers me real quick. Last time I forgot the cheers part, and that's just like a staple that we have. I was like, All right, cheers. Cheers. Thank you.